Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, a podcast on business, leadership, and life. Today, we have a very interesting guest that comes from a little bit different place than our normal guests. Please welcome Ghoul.
Are you AJ?
I am AJ. Are you
AJ.
Ghoul? I couldn't tell.
I am.
Welcome to the show, Ghoul.
Pleasure to be here.
How you doing today?
Just serendipitous.
Well, Ghoul, I want to talk a little bit about your background and your story. Where do you come from?
Well, I'm a product of the essence known as the Spirit Walker.
The Spirit Walker. Who's the Spirit Walker?
Spirit Walker is the creator of all of the quadrupedal costumes.
Nice. So you are the Ghoul. You come from the Spirit Walker. He's brought you into existence.
Yes, he has.
So what do you do for fun, Ghoul?
Well, I love going around and saying hi to people and, being a generally nice person and eating children. Just being a nice person.
You don't exactly look like the friendliest person, but it sounds like you're willing.
You would be surprised.
And I guess, they say that you can kind of hide behind your image a little bit. People sometimes think with my beard that I'm not friendly, but I think I'm okay.
That's a very friendly beard.
Thank you.
I like it.
So, Ghoul, I want to talk a little bit about the Spirit Walker, but I also want to talk about the real creator, the person that created this character, this costume, and really brought this to a huge following on social media, amassing millions of followers on TikTok, across the different platforms on Instagram, YouTube, etc. I want to talk to Bradon Johnson.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet you. I'll bring Bradon Johnson in. Okay.
Hi guys, I'm Bradon.
Hey, Bradon.
How's it going?
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, this is a pleasure to be here.
So this is quite the process. We had a whole bunch of clips from earlier of you putting this costume on, putting it together, designing this costume from scratch. Tell me about the inspiration for Ghoul, the character.
Well, I needed to take everything to a major next level after, the Coachella show and all the different things I've done on the social media. And, this costume, really the only inspiration I had was a picture of a lion's leg. So I wanted to figure out how to do the digitigrade legs. That's these.
So
your
leg is this top 2/3 of it.
Yeah,
and the bottom is a stilt.
The part that's moving here. So I built off of these digitigrade legs and then built the whole front in. And I kind of didn't really plan it that much. I just started creating.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much the same for everything I've created. Even like the Wraith Walkers, when I made those, it was just a process where all of a sudden, halfway through, I came up with the design. And this is where it landed. And actually, wasn't even going to have an animal-like head. It was actually going to be a regular face, but with the same skin. And I ended up making this head last second, all from scratch.
So I want to talk a little bit about your creative process, because you've got a really cool background with just performing arts, with sound engineering, with costume design, inventing. And it sounds like your process for creating is to just start and see where you go.
It's so chaotic. It's always chaotic and messy, but I've really found, if I just get into it, I start creating and I ended up seeing it in my head. I can physically picture what I'm creating in my head. And like this, the idea I had behind the skin, I wanted to create something that kind of looked like wood. It was almost like these are each tree branches. And once I kind of made this shape, which this was quite a process. This whole costume was 240 hours to create. And I did that in a month. Yeah, it was a lot. And now it kind of looks more like scales after I added a lot of the finer details, paint, and there's moss all throughout it. And I would say about 130 hours of this was grinding away and shaping and sculpting it. And it's very light. The upper body is only about 6 pounds.
So as far as the different characters you've created, Ghoul was Ghoul the second character?
This is the 5th character. Yep, this is the 5th costume.
So what was your first costume?
The first one is the OG Spirit Walker.
The OG,
this little guy.
The original. Not this guy right here, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, it looks just like this too.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Not as cute as me.
So I want to talk a little bit about, as you're like, were you new to costume design? What was your background before you got into creating the Spirit Walker?
I had no background for costume building.
Wow.
Never done anything with cosplay, but I was really big into Halloween. Took a lot of creative classes in a private art school that gave me the tools I needed in my head and skills to be able to make all these things.
So what's the material that you use for the skin?
So this is actually EVA. It's actually just regular EVA foam, kind of like what cosplayers would use, heavily modified.
And then what do you use for the structure? Because when you were putting the costume on, it looked like you have a lot of different mechanical aspects to the costume as well.
Yeah.
How do you make sure it's strong enough and it's secure and safe for when you're performing or with other artists?
So this is actually steel digitigrade leg exoskeleton with poly supports for the calf and for my thigh with airline cables that support it, so I can really crunch down all the way down here and not worry about falling. But one of the interesting things about the legs is my feet, there's only about 10 pounds of weight on my feet. As I sit here right now with my legs locked back, I've got about a pound on each foot. All of my weight and how I walk is with my thighs. So it's all backwards.
Yeah. So I want to talk to beyond the costume a little bit and talk about how quickly you amassed a social media.
Oh, it was a lot.
Yeah. You've got millions of followers on TikTok. You've got hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. There's certainly, not only is the interesting aspects aesthetically of the costume, but it's also the way that you've been able to kind of like hack and engineer a lot of the algorithms on some of these social platforms. How do you do that? What's your thought process for creating social media content?
Well, how about this? I'll pop out of this and we'll dig right into it.
Who is the man behind Ghoul? That's almost scarier than the kind of.
Oh, hey no.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Bradon the Spear Walker Johnson
That is me.
on to the podcast today. Bradon, thanks so much for jumping on.
I'm really glad to be here.
We left off with Ghoul asking a little bit about your process for really developing viral content. And that's something that I think is everybody's interested in, what people like Mr. Beast are doing, how they're able to engineer this type of video content so quickly. And you figured out a way to really do that, especially on TikTok with your Spirit Walker characters. What's your process? How do you do this?
Well, it seems like I might have a little bit of an unfair advantage because I have that shock and awe
Sure.
with my creations, and a lot of people have like a familiar feeling when they see this. But when it started, I was not very big into social media. I didn't really know what I was doing too much, but after the first viral video, I woke up that morning, 500,000 notifications on my phone, and looked and saw 7 million views. And immediately it snapped in my head, I need to record more and I need to record it now. And so over the last 3 years, we're at a month shy of 3 years since my first viral video. I've really dived into the psychology behind TikTok. And when you're scrolling, a lot of people don't understand that people scroll really fast.
Yeah.
You need to catch their attention immediately. So it's usually about half a second or maybe even less. So I've found a way to engineer that to where, I'll maybe put the punchline in first and then put the rest of the content through. And you want to keep them watching. So you have to constantly be looking through the analytics and see, why did they leave? When you see the views, you see right when everybody decides to leave the video, you need to keep them on as long as possible. So throughout these 3 years, it's been a learning process, but I found certain formulas that work for me. And sometimes the strange part, sometimes the videos that you never expected to go viral are the ones that are going to go viral.
Right.
Behind the scenes stuff. So the strange thing with TikTok is if you put a lot of work into one of the videos, it probably isn't going to go viral.
Huh.
But
So tell me about that first half a second. You said putting the punchline first.
mm-hmm.
Can you maybe come up with an example or like you said, a formula? What's something that you would want to do in that first half a second or less to get the stop scroll? Because that's the game.
That's the game.
How do we hey, that's interesting. And you mentioned you got a cool character.
Yeah.
That's what is this?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's obviously why you would stop but then there's other things you've learned. What are some of those strategies to get the stop scroll?
Yeah, the stop scroll is everything. You will never go viral if you don't get somebody to stop scrolling right away. Good quality lighting is huge, massive part of it. If you're scrolling and you see a dim video, I scroll right past it. If there's no production value in it at all. Also, the audio is really, really important. You don't want an audio that starts a second after the video starts. You want it to be immediate, because with the auditory and visual aspects of TikTok, you need to get both, and it needs to be thrown in their face almost immediately. And I would say the time frame is probably actually less than half a second. I think it's 0.3 seconds to get them to stop scrolling. So having really good quality lighting immediately is a huge factor. And also not just, one color. You want to be in a vibrant area to get them to stop, or a vibrant set.
How do you come up with ideas to keep them interested? How do you come up with interesting topics or things that you could, like when you're about to create a video, how do you get the idea for the video? What's your process for coming up with ideas?
That is interesting because my topic is so niche. It's so unique. I mean, there's no social media page on the internet that's like mine. But really, I've got a very, very vibrant imagination. I can film a whole thing in my mind with every shot exactly where it needs to be. And, I've worked with my father, who does a lot of my filming, and it is pretty hard to get that image out of my head and reproduce it. But usually I'll look at different social media pages and try to see what's either trending right now as far as audio, or I just come up with an idea in my head. I'm like, hey, that would be kind of cool, and throw it together. Usually last second. That's kind of how my whole thing goes. And everything's usually last second. But that's basically, we just constantly come up with new ideas and how to integrate it. I've done different things where these wild looking costumes are in regular places, which is always a weird thing to experience. And then sometimes I go straight for the horror theme.
Sure. So it's almost like I keep getting this idea of something's unusual happening. That seems to be a centerpiece of at least the content that you kind of create. Like, there's an unusual character in an unusual place.
Yeah.
Or if it's a normal character, it's in an unusual place, or if it's an unusual character in a normal place.
Yeah.
Like things that just don't click, and it just creates that fraction of curiosity that gets someone to stop. And then you assume in like good lighting, good production value, because it doesn't really matter if any of that doesn't look good. No one's going to want to stop and look at this.
Nobody's going to stop and look.
Unaesthetically pleasing. It's kind of like ugly actors, right? We always assume that actors, like, we forget how good looking they are because it's just assumed into it.
Right. Yep.
And it's kind of the same thing with your production, your film.
Yeah. And another thing is, everybody wants me to scare people. That's not really who I am. I don't.
Ghoul was quite friendly.
Yeah, Ghoul is very friendly, and there's been a ton of viral videos where children
look at that face.
Yeah, a little cutie.
Look at that face.
Or this.
How
face.
can you be?
Yeah, he's so.
How
sweet.
can you be scared of that?
Yeah,
how can you be scared of that face?
Although what I would say is adults are more scared of it than kids. Kids seem to like love it and think it's cute. And one of my more viral videos was this cute little girl during 60-second docs filming the documentary on the Spirit Walker. This little girl, 2 years old, she's between me and the road. And I didn't want to run up to her because, little kid, she would run right in the street. And I had a large crew with me watching people near the street. And I see her and she's just going like stimming. And she was so excited to see it. So then I finally walked up to her and she was just the biggest smile on her face, 2 years old. But I've also had adults that are scared of it. And we've done a couple different shoots at night, kind of wanting to scare people. And I've had a firearm pulled on me in it. Yeah, and I never posted about that because
you imagine that court case going down. Like,
well, it is terrifying, but
I thought this thing was an alien coming to like imagine the justification.
Yeah, we had a film crew there, so it wasn't like you
were able to cut it off.
Yeah, and I don't like scaring people that much because with these larger 6 foot or 7 foot tall quadrupedal 4-legged creatures, it's so different than what you're used to that some people are legitimately terrified, like arachnophobes. I found that arachnophobe, they're scared of it. So I've tried to put a little bit of a twist on my
Well, with all the
channel.
UFO stuff, you know, who knows?
Yeah, who knows these
Who knows
days?
if the spirit walker is a real thing or not? I don't know.
Also, Ghoul is so freaky realistic that
It was unbelievable when I was just kind of like I was asking you earlier about the skin and the design. I mean, like it looks like it could be like kind of serpent skin of some kind.
Yeah.
It's just how you were able to come up with it at that level of detail, this proximity. It was pretty realistic.
yeah, it's really ready for cinema. It's like close-up shots would be beautiful. The head was kind of beat up a little bit. We had to go over and repaint a few different things. And
But even the teeth have like, they're quite sharp. You know, you can like feel they got structural integrity to it. And
yeah. During Halloween, I like to ask for candy. I'll take candy in the mouth and throw it away.
Yeah.
What? But yeah, so it's this whole thing has been very strange. But I really don't like scaring people. That's what the internet wants. That's what everybody asks me, like, go out late at night. We live in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hunters. I am not going out in the woods at night.
Especially in October,
No.
October, November, when
Not too
peak
smart.
seasons. Right.
Not too smart at all.
Well, that's pretty interesting. You know, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Spirit Walker character, because that's really where it all started. We saw Ghoul
The original
earlier.
Spirit Walker.
We got Little Ghoul, and then we got Spirit Walker over here. And this was really what kind of brought you into the limelight, if you will.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the stages that you've gained attention from because of this platform that you've built and this character and where Spirit Walker has shown up.
It has been quite the thing. We're just over 2 billion views now.
Wow. That's
And
just unreal.
I can't even fathom that. I was looking out at 750,000 people live at Coachella. It's a sea of people. Even seeing 10,000 people is crazy. And to think,
And you're in the suit on the stage.
yeah,
Wow.
it was wild.
So how did that happen?
Oh boy.
How did you get on stage at Coachella?
So this is a little bit of a story. You ready for a story?
I'm ready for a story.
Okay, so I had gone mega viral on Instagram, 100 million views with my Wraith Walker. And right away, I went and traveled, did a bunch of collabs, got a much bigger following. At that time, I was at about 2.3 million. And the story actually starts out with Rick Owens, the Italian fashion designer.
Right.
And he reached out and he said, hey, I want you to come to Italy and I want you to make 10 of these. I want you to make 10 of these costumes for either Paris Fashion Week or another one as a featured artist. And I thought this is the craziest thing. And he's coming up with budget. And we're doing video calls constantly, like 2 a week. I was having video calls with Rick Owens. And I didn't, I don't really care too much about celebrities. I work with them fairly often as an audio engineer. I didn't realize that this is one of the top fashion
You didn't know who
designers
this
in the
person
world.
was, right?
Yeah. And as we were having the conversation, I got a call from Amala, Doja Cat. And
The Doja
Yeah.
Cat.
And I didn't really believe it was actually her. I knew who she was.
Like, why would she call you?
Yeah, why
or
would she
people
call
would
me?
call you or something.
It turns out one of my collabs when I first made the Wraith Walker was Andre Armamante. And he was, he does magic or designs the tricks behind magic. And I did a collab with him, and one of his friends, Brett, Doja Cat's creative designer, saw my collab with him and showed Doja Cat. So then I got a call from Andre. He's like, hey man, you need to go to your Instagram right now. And I got her my phone number. I got Brett my phone number, and she ended up calling me. And turns out they wanted me at Coachella. And Coachella is 1 week after when Rick Owens wanted me to produce this. And so I had to kind of choose, like, which one am I going to go for? And I came to Rick and I said, hey, Rick, I think I can make this work. If we fly straight from Italy to LA, I can still make this work properly. And he's like, if you're going to work with Doja Cat, I'm not going to work with you. I was really confused. So then for 3 hours, I was pacing because I had to choose. Am I going to go into the fashion world with one of the biggest fashion designers in the world? Or am I going to go to one of the biggest concerts in the world? And as I'm an audio engineer, I decided, yeah, I'm going to go with them.
Do you think that was like a good decision?
I don't know yet. But before this happened, Doja Cat asked me to ask Rick Owen if he wants to do a collab with me at Coachella. You know, he makes the costumes and stuff, and Doja Cat's dancers wear them. And so here I am. I am a kid from Wisconsin, and I just have one of the biggest R&B artists in the world and one of the biggest, you know, fashion designers. And she's saying, "Hey, will you set up a meeting between us?" Me, this guy. You know, I feel like I'm nobody. And so I go back to Rick Owens and I say, you know, "Hey, she wants to do a collab with you." And he's like, "No, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in her at all." And Rick was actually one of Doja Cat's biggest inspirations behind her style.
Really?
And then here's Rick.
Not interested.
Not interested. I don't want to work with you at all. He got really mad and pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. He got pretty scary when I brought this up again. And then finally I just told him, like, "I'm doing Coachella."
1, 2, 3.
I'm sorry. Doing Coachella, and he pulled up, and that's the last time I ever talked with him.
Wow.
Yep. So, and the story goes way further. So Doja Cat has me, or she commissions a whole nother costume for me to make, a copy of Wraith Walker. So I made the copy, and this is the Cadillac of costumes. I mean, when I'm in that thing, I am comfy. So that was actually, my sister's boyfriend had plenty of time to do this and go out to LA for weeks or a whole month. And so I built this costume around his body.
All right, do it again.
And I had to
That's
even make the
fucking cool.
box to ship it out to Coachella, which was thousands of dollars to ship it to LA and back. And so I made the box and put lights in it and all that for practices and shipped it out there. We get out there, and for, you know, a couple weeks we're practicing, and it was one of the most amazing experiences ever, being in this beautiful practice studio, line arrays, you know, a $10 million ground package of lighting. Every other day another famous person walks in to see her performance. You know, like Baz Luhrmann just walks in one day, the director, Moulin Rouge.
Yep.
He just walks in, and I didn't know who he was, and I'm like tapping people. I'm like, "Hey, what was that guy?" And they're looking at me like, "You should know." He's walking in with a posse, and like Tyga came in, and Rico Nasty was there, and a whole bunch of other people. So, you know, throughout the whole process, we're choreographing, and each one of us had our own choreographer. So everything is choreographed perfectly. And
So they're telling you the choreography.
yeah,
Okay. Because I know you do some of your own.
Yeah.
Which we can talk about later.
normally
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
all the choreographing and where we need to go. But Amla actually came in and like worked with us, was pretending to be us. And I remember the first time that Amla sees the costume. So it's the first time I met her. She came up, said hi, introduced herself. I immediately jumped in the costume and like came at her. And she like drops on her back and like puts her legs up, and it was like obscene. She was like, "Yeah, this is amazing." And that was hilarious. So after all this practice, you know, the costumes are shipped out to Coachella, and we show up there. We're getting ready. I went and saw a bunch of different things at Coachella. I've never been there before. Never been to a mainstream festival. And it's about an hour before my first performance, and I'm fully NDA'd. The only people who knew that I was going to be out there doing this was my family, Rick Owens, and Doja Cat. And so 1 hour before I go on, I open up my TikTok, as I normally do, getting ready to film something to show all my followers. And my account was permanently banned. And I'm wrecked.
This
I
is
had
like this is the
tears in my
time. This
eyes.
is the
Yeah.
time to finally show people.
Yeah, I thought this was going to change everything, and my account was permanently banned. 2.5 million followers. And so now I'm nobody, and I'm just gonna go on stage. Nobody's gonna see it. Maybe my family. And you know, I posted to Facebook and finally like let everybody know that, hey, I'm about to do this. Make sure you jump on and watch it. It was cool, but my head was messed up. I was really upset. I was really sad, and I'm sitting there getting into it and walking out on the stage, and I kind of just forgot. I'm like, let me just enjoy the moment. And here I am in a 6.5 foot tall creature walking out on the stage, and the subs, I thought I was going to vibrate off the stage. Like, it was a lot. It's like amplified, you know.
Yeah.
I'm way up. I'm planking on 4 stilts on stage. And my heart was racing so much before I walked out there the first time. I'm like, this is, you know, it's seen by 100 million people online, and you know, it's huge. But as soon as I started walking to my cue, clean, clean thoughts, totally easygoing, no problem. Did the whole thing perfectly. Every cue hit right on. Great movements. She came up right up, interacted, and we finished. And I came back out for the finale. The very end, kind of just head thrashing, head banging while I'm in it, and the whole thing ended perfect, super easy. I had no stress in my head or heart at all.
So what was like? So now that you lost your TikTok, like, what was the after effect of this? Were you able to garner some of that momentum? Like, why did you lose your TikTok account? What was the story for that?
So this is where we get back to Rick Owens. So it was gone. I was totally banned the next 3 days in a row, and then we didn't have practice. So I'm just kind of meandering around LA and stuff, and I'm just a little sad, a little down. And then on the fourth day, I was contacting everybody I can. In the meantime, everybody I can, I was contacting. Doja Cat's manager even contacted TikTok, and everybody's trying to figure this out. And finally, I reached out to somebody named Colty. He's at 10 million followers. We've been friends for a while, and I'm like, do you have anybody on the inside of TikTok? I don't know what to do. I lost everything. I'm screwed here. And so he reaches out, and the first thing he says is, oh, I guess there's an age verification issue with you. Age verification? I'm 30. And turns out, after I sent him my ID to send to TikTok, which is weird, they didn't contact me directly. Turns out that 15 or 16 accounts simultaneously reported every single one of my videos I've ever reported as being underage. And TikTok's had an issue with that. So it automatically banned my account. So somebody paid a decent amount of money to have my account mass reported all at once.
Is that as easy as it is to just ban someone?
You need programmers, and you need, basically hackers to spoof accounts and report everything simultaneously, which is if TikTok gets that many reports that fast, your TikTok's gone.
Yeah, it just flags it.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So I was directly attacked 1 hour before I went on stage, and was kind of weird because literally my family and Doja Cat and Rick Owens were the only people who knew.
Do they hate each other or something, or does Rick Owens?
No, I never knew. I didn't know there was any bad blood there, but I can't say for a fact that I know that that's what happened, but I will say that it is fairly ironic that 1 hour before, and there's only a few people who knew I was doing this, and Doja Cat's team.
Do you think there was some angle he was trying to use a lot of your, costume, and he had big plans for this design? And
yep, he wanted to put one costume in every one of his stores with clothing on it. Kind of felt like the clothing aspect was a little. I wasn't really big fond.
You're more of a performer, so it seems like that's more interesting to you to do this,
And to this day, I still don't know if I made the right decision. The Coachella experience was bar none the biggest feeling I've ever had. Just the most amazing experience ever. But going to Italy and making these costumes for performers, one other aspect that made me move away from that idea is he wanted them to be walking through water. That would not work. Not on stilts. Especially with I would have to train all the models too to be in it. That just wouldn't work. But I still don't know if I made the right decision. I never really gained anything from Coachella, from working with Doja Cat at all. Didn't improve my career at all.
Are you still close with her at all, or no?
No, she's pretty much ghosted.
Yeah,
which
needed you for that one concert.
Yeah, just needed just for that. And I did message her randomly, teasing her, and she said, "When are you going to get me some cheese curds or something?" She had never had a cheese curd. We were sitting in practice, and she comes up, and I'm like, "Man, I'm really craving some cheese curds." And she's like, "A cheese what? Cheese curd? It's the most delicious thing."
Yeah, people outside of Wisconsin don't get it.
They don't know what it was.
They don't get the beauty of a cheese curd.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I was like, they even make fried ones, and she was sitting there melting. I need them. So yeah, she had never tried cheese curds.
We'll go over to Zitto and we'll send her some.
Yeah, I'm going to just send her some. I've wanted to work with her. I have talked with Brett a couple different times, possibly about, Ghoul coming out, because Ghoul is a lot darker, and her style's gotten really dark lately.
Yeah.
Would have been cool to go to VMAs or to, one of the award shows she goes to as her pet, but that never really panned out.
Yeah. Has there been other areas, other artists you've been interested in collaborating with, or have, developed relationships with, or anything like that?
Yeah, there's been quite a few that contact me to do different things. There is a DJ from Brazil, Alok, I believe his name is. He's like one of the top DJs in the world. And he wanted me to fly me and maybe a couple friends out with the costumes to perform at this big festival. But then there was a really big lockdown, and then some issues were happening with protests there. So that didn't work out. And then most recently, last New Year's Eve, I performed with a EDM, really hardcore EDM artist named Sudden Death. And that was a crazy event. I've never pushed my body that far in my life. And I had 2 other people with me. So we had 3 costumes on stage, and he came out in a casket, dropped down. And it was a very strange show. And I ended up going out in the crowd, and those partiers, there's quite a few sitting in the very back struggling.
Yeah.
Oh, I would go right up to him. I went right up to him, and man, I'm sure that freaked a lot of people out. That was wild. I ended up tearing a tendon in my neck. I was headbanging so hard.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been quite a ride, though. I mean, the last 3 years you started with it sounds like just kind of screwing around with this costume.
Mm-hmm.
Goes viral on social media. You get invited to Coachella. You perform with Doja Cat.
Yeah.
You're getting contacted by some of the most famous influencers in their fields in the world. What's next? I mean, where are you going now?
I would like to go to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my next step is just going to Hollywood.
Yeah, I want you in a Marvel movie. That thing would be sick.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, even how many more other characters are banked up in your head of things?
Too many.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I just now got another studio, or a decent space to where I'm going to be building these. I have some wicked ideas, and I'm not too happy with AI lately, because AI is producing things that are looking fairly realistic on a low budget. And I feel like in the movie industry, we need to keep puppeteering in it. Puppeteering
100% agree. Look at Star Wars. Look at the original Jurassic Park. Those are still some of the best effects. And even and Star Wars universe has figured this out. They keep puppeteering in a lot of their newer shows. But you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So I would really like to go into there and kind of go in the Jim Henson route. Just like the studios that they make.
Yeah. Like Stan Winston and kind of like all those creators.
And it's also really hard to get these things anywhere. They're so big. Even this one that collapses down in all these parts, to ship this across the country is astronomical.
Right.
Or I would need to have like a large bag and buy another seat and just literally carry this thing with me. So, I mean, unless I could actually move out there, it's not that feasible. But I've been contacted by a number of different movie productions, a lot of different Sundance films and competitions, film competitions. And just recently, 2 weeks ago, I filmed in a 48-hour film project, which if we win, we would be then shipped out to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
To make another 48-hour short.
So what about like the social media world? You have aspirations to do this on YouTube?
Yeah. So I've never really done anything on YouTube. I don't know why. I know YouTube is the best monetization tool there is. But it seems like long form content takes so much more time to produce.
Yeah.
I mean, one TikTok video that's done very well is going to take me 45 minutes to edit on my phone, which that's a lot. But, you're talking about a 20-minute video on YouTube, that's days.
Mm-hmm.
And I also own an audio and lighting production company for live bands. And I'm constantly producing festivals myself. And I've got one helper. We've been doing production. His name is Dustin. We've been doing production together for 16 years.
Wow.
And so I've built up this amazing customer base. And so I'm really, really busy. And it's really hard for me to actually edit these things up. And now, let alone getting in the costumes, I can't do it alone. I came here today with 4 people. So it's very hard to consistently get content with these things. So I'm looking to move into YouTube. This month.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm ready to rock this month, and I want to show people some really amazing things.
So we will have all that information for you guys in the description. We're going to make sure we link you up with his channel. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out, and as well as how to contact you.
Yep.
So is there anything else you want to share with the group?
Get ready for what's next.
We got a lot of characters coming from the Spirit Walker. Mr. Brandon Johnson, thank you so much.
Thank you.